What a game.
Yeah, I didn't think it was possible to lose by that much.
Jeez.
Okay, boys, have a seat. It's time we had a little talk. I guess I don't have to tell you our game isn't working. We're obviously in a slump. And the problem is we're just not playing as a team.
Well, you're not helping, Coach. I mean, where have you been for the last couple of weeks?
I could say it was none of your business. But it is your business. Because I've been out looking at other teams to try and pick up some tips to make us better.
What other teams, Coach? The Jays? The A's?
The NTs.
The North Tonawandas?
No, NT. Northern Telecom.
What league are they in?
The big leagues. They're one of the world's largest manufacturers of telecommunications equipment.
So what does that have to do with us?
Some of their locations have started what they call team-directed workforces. Now, the magic word there is team. They seem to know more about running a team than we do. So I went to talk to them, and Kelly came with me.
That's right. We visited 4 Northern Telecom locations and talked to dozens of people. And we brought back a video. They're doing some very exciting things down there, guys, and I think that we can pick up a few tips from them.
Well, why not?
We'll try anything that can help make us better.
And wanting to be better is what started the changes at Northern Telecom.
We thought we were good. The business indices were heading in the right direction, but we weren't satisfied. We knew that being good was not going to be good enough in the 1990s. Status quo would not cut it. We had to get on a road of continuous improvement, more productivity per employee.
And to build on that was the human element. We had a depressing environment, cages, time clocks. We wanted an environment where people were challenged. We wanted to maximize the potential of people.
They used to operate like typical manufacturing plants. The managers did most of the thinking.
And workers did most of the work.
When you walk in the door, you leave your brain at the front step and you come on in, you read the documentation, you mod your packs, you test your packs. When you're all done, you go home. Pick your brain up on the way out the door, but there was no thinking involved.
But Coach, I don't get it. How could they leave their brain at the door? I mean, that would mean they would have to leave their head at the door too.
It's just a saying, Cunningham.
I knew that. I knew that. I did. I knew that.
Like us, they figured they had a lot of potential that just wasn't being realized. So they started to make changes.
We went in and focused on our most precious resource, which is our people. And we basically eliminated the term supervisors and employees and adopted the philosophy of the team approach, and now we have players and coaches. No bosses, no workers, players and coaches.
So they've moved from operating as a bunch of separate individuals to operating as teams.
Small teams of people are responsible for their own piece of the manufacturing process. Sort of like running their own business.
And they've taken a lot of things the managers used to do, such as scheduling and overtime. Now the team handles them.
It divides more responsibility up between the people on the floor, where in the past, for an example, your supervisor kept time on you, as in when you were here, your days off, where now it's put on the individual. The individual is responsible for himself or herself.
Management used to be responsible for quality, and they had quality departments. Now, everybody checks their own quality, and it's verified by others on the team.
They set their own budgets. They determine production speed and cycle time. Now, what that all boils down to is instead of managers doing all the problem solving, the team does that.
And guess what? They're good at it.
So instead of managers doing everything all the time, you transfer the ownership to the people, and they're the ones that know the product best anyway, so they're the ones that should be making a lot of the decisions.
Well, today, the changing role of the worker is that the team gets the first crack at solving the problem, and then the engineer now works in a consulting role, and that's a pretty dynamic change.
All these changes mean that people feel more responsibility, ownership, and control over their jobs. The teams even get together and set their own vision of where they want to go, and they sign it.
It's like all of a sudden people are given a steering wheel and a brake, and they can guide their own jobs.
So you're saying that a lot of the things that used to be done by managers are now being done by the teams?
So I guess that means they can cut all the managers.
No, but it sure made them sweat for a while.
I was afraid that in due time I was going to end up losing my position here because I would do myself out of a job. But then I really rationalized and I thought back about it and said, well, if the company really wants this kind of a change and this kind of an evolution, and if I can become more involved with it, become a front runner and a leader in this, then I'll be an asset in the future.
The change is probably hardest for the managers because it means a change in management style. For instance, how would you boys describe my management style in the past?
Slightly aggressive.
Come on, don't be nice.
Dictator.
I can't hear you!
A dictator!
Sure, I was a dictator, because that's the way it's always been.
The most interesting thing or a quote that I can use is that an average manager gives a dictate every 7 minutes. And we're no different than the average. Why? Why do we do that?
They talked about a management style called MBWA. Now, does anybody know what that means?
Management by whipping ass?
Well, that's the way it used to be.
We believe that the days of the section manager cracking the whip over the employees to get them to produce good quality products in an efficient manner are over with. Employees these days realize that they have a bigger part to play.
But my style worked for 6 to 8 years, and now it doesn't work. The old style, it just doesn't, it will not work. So I have learned a lot about that, and the employees were the ones that taught me.
Whereas before they were like a dictator, now they're more like a guidance counselor, you might say.
He's kind of like a coach. So if we run into an area that we haven't had that much experience in yet, you know, we just call on him and he'll just point us in the direction that we should be going.
So they've gone from dictator to facilitator, from manager to coach.
And now MBWA means management by wandering around.
The coaches spend 99% of their time on their feet, on the floor, right there alongside with the players. It's just like in football or any other sport, the coach doesn't coach from the locker room. The coach has got to be out there on the sidelines, right there on the playing field, along with the players, leading, directing, coaching, helping out, and providing that vision and making sure that everyone understands what the goal is.
And now, if I spend more than an hour in my office, I'm a bad manager because I'm not talking to the people that are out there doing the job, helping them become a little bit better in what they're doing.
They said one of the big keys to making all this work is training.
So, do they have a good spring training schedule or something?
Well, not only do they have spring training, they've got summer, fall, and winter training too. That's how the players learn their new skills.
After all, how do you think I got to be a coach? By having some magical ability?
Nah, we never thought that, Coach.
The way you learn anything new is through training. And these team-directed workforces put a lot of emphasis on it.
It is no question that you will be trained X amount of hours in this facility. It will happen, and it's a priority one. It won't be cutting the budget.
I would say the answer is training, or one of the answers. When in Santa Clara, about 2.5 years ago, we implemented just-in-time concepts and flow lines. Engineers went to training, the hourly workforce went to training, everybody went to training except for the supervisors. And as a result, 6 months later, after implementing flow lines, 75% of the supervisors quit the company. We lost some real valuable people.
All over the past 3 years, we've definitely seen that the training focus here has changed. 3 years ago, we taught everybody on the skills, the basic skills of their job, soldering, desoldering. In the past year and a half, we've moved to more business needs. This is the profit and loss. This is how you measure absorption.
So now, they don't just learn how to run bases, they learn how to run a business and how to handle numbers.
Oh, but Coach, I'm not too great at throwing numbers around. I might commit a few errors.
Don't underestimate yourselves. At the plants we visited, there wasn't a Harvard MBA in the bunch.
But now they calculate their own budgets, expenses and spending. Now, if the numbers aren't up to scratch, they go to the coach with the problem and the business proposals to fix it.
Yeah, but Coach, you always keep the numbers under lock and key. We never get to see them.
Well, maybe that's got to change.
You have to have a much more of an open environment, I think, when you go to self-directed work teams. So you don't have secrets anymore. The budget isn't a secret anymore.
And the more business information people have, the better decisions they're going to make. And the more input you have, the better decisions we as a team are going to make.
And I tell you one thing, I feel much more comfortable that I've got 420 people worried about my business than just 10 or 15 people worried about my business.
So they now develop the left side of the brain, the logical, rational side that deals with numbers. But they also realize that people have another side that's more creative and emotional.
We're saying it's all right in a workforce to bring in emotions. Why leave them at the door? They affect every other decision that you make, in or out of here. use those emotions.
And we're also doing a lot of interpersonal training. How do you negotiate with your fellow employees? How do you do conflict resolution? How do you handle stress? How do you do problem solving?
How do you get along with your boss? How do you present problems? How do you get along with your peer? All those things that just managers are supposed to know. That's not true. Why are just managers supposed to know how to get along with other people?
There has to be a hell of a lot of trust amongst one another for a team to operate effectively. And then there has to be a lot of communications.
They said you can't develop a team without good, open communications. And that doesn't mean they send a bunch of memos around. They have a lot of fast, informal meetings.
And if there's a problem, they pull their chairs together. They communicate, they talk about it, they solve it, and they get back to work.
We got everybody to talk to each other. And that's, that's one of the main hurdles, getting everybody to talk. Communication and trust.
We are starting to talk with each other a lot more. We're starting to share a lot more information. We're working together on a lot of things. That's a big step, a really big step.
Now, we tell them everything there is to know about the business, both the positives and the negatives. Where before, we just say, yes, the contractors will be here and they're putting a new roof on. Now we tell them the cost, how much time it's going to take, how long we're going to be here in the building, why we're doing it, things like that. Where before, you never really were supposed to tell anybody. You really didn't think you had to tell anybody.
In order to increase communications, they're breaking down the barriers that get in the way.
They're reducing bureaucracy, getting rid of the symbols that say us versus them, and they're putting everybody on an even playing field.
We eliminated all the things that make us managers. We wear blue jeans, t-shirts, whatever's comfortable, whatever you want to wear. It was real hard getting some people to take their ties off. I was amazed at how hard that was. But see, you can wear whatever you want to wear, your tie or not your tie, it doesn't matter. The point is that if someone sees it as a barrier, then recognize it as such. Reserved parking places for the cabinet were eliminated. Why should we have reserved parking places?
We found another way that was really good at breaking down barriers. We called it a lip sync contest. And actually, all employees of Morrisville, whether you were management or whether you were on the production floor, it didn't matter where you were, you got up together as a team and actually did a song and a dance to music in front of a stage and your coworkers. Great way to release tension and release stress in the workforce.
It all sounds pretty good to me, but how long does it take to set up one of these team-directed programs?
That's what we asked.
And they said, don't ever, ever call it a program.
But I think it's very dangerous to call it a program because it equates it with, and we all know of dozens of programs Northern Telecom has had. But we really have to emphasize that it's not a program. It's a mindset change. You look at work differently.
I just have a little experience in companies that make changes, and the worst thing Northern Telecom could possibly do is to hang up a bunch of banners.
People at Northern are looking for the big fanfare and the big program of the month syndrome, and all we're talking about is treating people with basic human respect.
So we're being very careful. We're introducing this very slowly. We know that it's not a theme a year kind of thing. Like, it's not this year, it's this, and next year it'll be something new. It's like, this is going to take 2 or 3 years.
So it takes time, and it's not all roses. We're talking about a major change in the way people work. So there's also going to be a few problems along the way.
One thing when you start this process, expect things to be chaotic. If you expect it to be smooth and very transitional and easy road, no, it's going to be chaotic, and you can make that chaos one of two things. It can either be positive or it can be negative.
It's difficult to change a culture that has existed for a number of years. There are going to be some setbacks, and we've experienced some. I believe the answer to it is to maintain a continuity, a commitment to it. If we fail, we shouldn't back off. We should instead drive harder forward.
You do feel a lot more stress, you do feel a lot more pressures, but you're making a lot more major decisions as to what you're going to do. It's a challenge. You know, there's no doubt. It's a challenge, and it's a really healthy challenge.
This team-directed stuff sounds pretty good, but has it made them better players?
Yeah, are they winning the game?
Well, from what we could see, everybody's winning.
Northern Telecom's winning because quality and productivity have shot up.
Since they've started work in self-directed teams down there, all of their metrics have improved. They have higher quality, lower costs, more productivity, shorter intervals. I mean, it's all coming together for them.
Work teams have definitely been good for Northern Telecom. If you take a look at the 3-year results, revenues are up 60%. Earning on those revenues are up 40%. Defects are actually down by 50%, and our customer service level is improved 60%. Bottom line, it's good for the company and it's good for our customer.
And so with team-directed workforces, Northern Telecom is winning. The customers are winning. And when you listen to the people who work there, you realize that they're also winning.
Where before I had to get the direction from someone or I had to get the okay to go do something, I can truly do what I want and run my own business now, and I really like it.
Your opinions are valued, and that's really nice. That's a real nice big pat on the back when people are actually saying, hey, that's a great idea.
I think it's a lot healthier, just for the sake that people are involved a lot more. It used to be you just walked in the door and sat down, started working, and went home. Now you're concerned about how you're doing.
If people don't go home moody or stressed out, you're a little more relaxed because you've made your own decisions on what you did.
I enjoy doing what I do. I enjoy the challenge and learning every day something new. You have to be willing to change. If you don't want to change, get out of it.
I like it very much. I look forward to coming to work. It's not, I have to go to work, I get to go to work.
In the 90s, the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to get the innovation and the people spirit, the human spirit back into their business.
So there you have it, team-directed workforces. What do you think?
If it can help them win, maybe it can help us win too. Let's just do it.
Yeah!
When do we start?
Whenever we're ready.
We can start right now.
Coach, I'm awfully sweaty. Can I take a shower before we do this team thing?
Cunningham, we're changing. Now you don't have to put up your hand to ask the coach for permission.
I don't?
Now we're taking on more of the responsibility ourselves.
Okay, the team's responsible for showers, and I say we all head for them.
You don't continue to be a world-class company by sitting in our own backyard. You've got to go out and see what other companies are doing.
People ask me, what is the President's Council? Well, it's really pretty simple. We go out and we talk to other companies and see what makes them successful.
Then we bring the information back to Northern Telecom and say, hey, look at the great things this company's doing. We use that as a springboard to come up with ideas that can help us become a better company.
Trips usually have about 30 people from all across Northern Telecom, and we're on the road for a couple of weeks.
And it's not just managers. It's engineers, secretaries, production people. You name it.
The companies that we visited, well, I think the most important criteria of the companies that we visited were that they're successful. Size really doesn't matter. They could be a big company or a small company. And what they produce, that's not important either. The only thing that really counts is that they're successful at what they do.
One of our objectives is to look at ways of improving customer service. So we also visit our own customers and get feedback directly from them.
We were more than glad to take the time to show you around today. I hope you've gotten something out of it, and thank you very much.
So it's really good to find out what went right when we dealt with the customers, but it's also very important to find out what went wrong and what we can do to improve it.
It's not just the big picture things that we're after. Often it's the little things, the details that contribute to success. Like the emission cards they told us about at Worthington Steel.
A lot of companies have manuals and manuals of philosophy, where ours is on a little card.
Each company we visit has their own, what would you call it, style of presentation. Some companies were very organized with formal presentations. At other companies, there are people who just sit down and say, okay, what do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? Very casual.
I liked it when we visited Hewlett-Packard. They divided us up into smaller groups of 6 or 7 people and gave us a tour of the factory floor. That gave us the chance to stop and really talk to the production people.
At some companies, we learn about manufacturing techniques or things like quality issues. Other companies tell us more about customer service or management issues like building teamwork or improving communications.
The companies that we visited really go to a lot of effort to spend as much time as they do with us. And hopefully we give them something in return. We share some of our knowledge with them, some of our ideas, and we use it as a way of developing a business relationship with them.
The trip doesn't end when you come through the final airport terminal. The responsibility is there to come back and talk to as many people as we can about what we experienced, because after all, we were ambassadors. We were selected to go on behalf of the employee base at large. So we owe it to them to tell them what it was like and what we saw and what we felt and what we heard and what we learned, and to share the excitement that it was all about too.
Anyone who's been on one of these trips could never ever forget it. It's more than just the knowledge you bring back and the ideas you bring back. There's a whole feeling that goes with it. It's an extremely intense experience, and it stays with you for a long, long time.
Well, I think it's an ideal exercise to build teamwork, to build confidence.
It really opened my eyes as to the team dynamics, how people work together.
The neat thing about it is that it's a trust and communication exercise, and in a matter of hours, people that were virtually strangers to one another all of a sudden become a team.
What we're going to be looking at today are some aspects of management, of working together, of team building within an organization. And we're going to be looking at them through the eyes of someone doing some outdoor activities. So it's going to be a little bit different. Instead of me sitting you down in a classroom and saying, to be a good team, you need to do this and this and this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you a little bit about what teamwork is and how it works and what the concepts are of working together. And then we're going to give you an opportunity to do that.
The first activity that we did was really a trust-building activity where we had to allow ourselves to fall backwards and be caught, so you had to trust the other person.
A lot of people wouldn't trust people they only met a couple of days ago to lift them 5 or 6 feet in the air and move them around and turn them readily. But unless you're going to take a chance to allow yourself to trust people, you're never going to learn or earn that trust. It was really exciting for me to say, well, gee, there's 5 or 6 strangers who've got me up in the air, and I really had to say, well, boy, I really do trust these people to allow them to do that.
Out of the 9 of us, 2 of us were blindfolded. It was a matter of depending on the 2 blind people that could talk and the 7 sighted people that couldn't, and the communication that we had to make by touching and directing. They depended on us for sight and we depended on them for sound.
All right, Bonnie.
How is that, Darren? I guess I was getting a lot of help overcoming my fear of that, what do you call that, the zip? And I don't think that I would have done it on my own.
You're doing fine, Sally. Go ahead.
It's just that feeling of support from the rest of the team and being able to reach that objective as a team.
think one of the things I learned is the teamwork aspect of it. We tried to talk Mimi onto the rope, onto the platform. I talked to Ron, Gaetan talked to me, the instructor talked to all of us. So it was good. Good stuff.
And we were on such a high by the end of the day, just because we were oriented together and we had one task and everybody just kind of pulled together and one vision. It all comes down to one vision.
One of the highlights of the tour for us was the D.B. Cooper Company. It was a very customer service oriented company, very people oriented.
More than just a company, it was a club, and that was really nice about the trip. There's something nice about the trip, and that a nice bonus.
It was really the only place we toured at night too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think we had a chance to tour that facility 3 times.
4 times, I think.
Well, 3, 4 times. It doesn't matter. Each time we
can't remember.
Each time we toured it, it was a different experience.
A very different experience. One of the things we found about the quality of the D.B. Cooper Company is that when something gets to the bar, the final product gets to the bar, it's always cold, it's always clean.
Then they had a very strong certified vendor program so that they didn't have to worry about inspecting any of their incoming product. When it came, it was always top quality.
You knew you were getting good product.
And that's something we saw in the other companies as well we visited, but nothing like the D.B. Cooper Company. They were exceptional at this.
They were top notch, yeah. Some of the companies we visited had a really interesting approach to their employee relations. They had instituted a no layoff policy. The D.B. Cooper Company, for example, took that even one step farther.
Yeah, they had a get laid policy. Many of the successful companies we visited implemented statistical process control, or SPC, in their manufacturing process, and the D.B. Cooper Company was no exception.
This is a typical SPC chart here, monitoring the male-female mix throughout the bar.
This point here would show that there's too many males coming into the bar, and the doorman would have to let some more females in.
This point down here, I think, would indicate that there are too many women on the dance floor, and the DJ would probably play a slow song to encourage the men to get up and dance.
The whole objective of this process is to ensure that the customer leaves satisfied.
I was satisfied. Were you satisfied?
Yeah, I was satisfied.
One of the things that really struck me about the D.B. Cooper Company was the way they managed their workforce. They had very much a self-directed workforce. The waitress could give you a single, or she could give you a little extra if she wanted to. She had the responsibility and the authority to do that.
Yeah, I thought it was a real customer-driven organization in that if she wanted to give you a little more than you were entitled to, she didn't have to worry about being fired, and that was a real plus.
Yeah, she also had the authority to cut you off if she wanted to.
I thought she did cut you off one night.
I don't remember that.
During the tour, one of the things we noticed about the successful companies is that they really listen to their customers.
Yeah, a perfect example of that, I guess, is the D.B. Cooper Company. They instituted a customer listening system.
Yeah, the bartender.
Yeah, she listened to you for 3 hours.
Another thing we discovered is that the successful companies really spend a lot of time communicating with both their employees and their customers.
Yeah, another perfect example of that, again, I guess, is the D.B. Cooper Company. They instituted an MBWA program.
Yeah, mingling by wandering around.
Yeah, it was interesting. The manager wasn't up in an office somewhere just writing out payroll and that type of thing. He was actually down on the floor with the employees and with the customers.
Yeah, especially the good-looking ones.
This is the organization chart for the D.B. Cooper Company.
And this bar chart really emphasizes the horizontal management structure of this company.
Actually, what this structure allows is for extensive interaction between the customer on one side of the bar and the employee on the other, as well as allowing for extensive interaction between the customers themselves.
And management is really committed to this horizontal structure.
In fact, everyone in the club is committed to becoming horizontal.
The D.B. Cooper Company wasn't always the efficient, customer-oriented company that it is today.
For instance, there was a time when this was an acceptable level of inventory on every table, due to the fact that the interval time was so long between actually ordering a drink and getting a drink.
Today, like many other successful companies, the D.B. Cooper Company has gone to a just-in-time environment.
Now, when you finish your beer, another one arrives.
Just in time.